Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's Metaworld news. This is the news for the week ending the 17th of June. And the year, in case you don't know, is 2018. That might be actually useful if you're looking up this archive in 100 years' time. I'll be dead and gone, but there's a record of the date for you. Right, the year. Anyway, you're also probably, if you are listening 100 years in the future, you're probably going to be thinking, what on earth are they talking about that trivial ancient stuff for? Well, it's not trivial to us.
Right, right.
We're living in a real world here. And in this day and time, we're still trying to get it to work. Yes, we are indeed. Okay, enough of that. You can just take it from me. We're trying to get it to work. Sound, vision, and everything else. Okay, now you can follow me, of course, at Twitter, twitter.com/Malburns. That's Malburns. And there's also an extra feed there, twitter.com/MetaWorldNews. If you follow my feed, you will find out about sort of virtual reality interfacing. Well, it's more to do with computer interfacing and new tools and technology, sort of new stuff rather than new models of stuff, and such like uses of VR stuff like that. And MetaWorld News covers social virtual worlds specific things like Open Simulator, the Hypergrid, High Fidelity, Science Space, and what's the other thing called? Oh yeah, Samsar. Oh, and the other thing, Second Life. Yes, Second
Yeah, I
Life.
was
How
waiting
can
for
we
that
miss
one.
Second Life? We sort of everybody sort of started in Second Life back in the day, and when I say back in the day, um, 15 years ago. Yep, today is the opening day of Second Life's 15th birthday celebrations. And I have to say hello, don't I? I have to say congrats, don't I?
Yes.
Of course I do. So, yes, congratulations to Linden Lab on making it to 15 years with Second Life. It's probably more like 16 if you count Linden World before it, which is Philip's precursor. But 15 years is a heck of a long time, and it's still running. It's a bit more flashier than it ever used to be, although obviously something that is 15 years old has the flavor of being 15 years old. But there again, so do we here on the Open Simulator on the Hypergrid. We're very much the same state of technology where these things are concerned. And we have to sacrifice a bit of the graphics and the whiz bang, stuff that you can do these days because that sacrifice basically enables interactivity. The fact that we inhabit these worlds, we can collaborate with each other, share things, and do things like create inside the world as opposed to outside the world and upload it. And all that takes quite a lot of processing. So, what that takes is often to the sacrifice slightly of the graphics and stuff like that. Anyway, so we're in the sort of same position as them. We're just over 10 years old. Second Life is now 15 years old. And when you think about it, what's that? In 3 years' time, Second Life will be an adult. It's 13. It's a
Hmm.
pretty, what, testosterone driven teenager? 15? I
I
don't
guess
know.
so.
But, well, it's all virtual anyway, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yes. Well, just think of it. If Second Life gets to be 18, we can actually call it an adult piece of software. We're definitely not in beta anymore. Or is it? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think
Let me
so.
get on with the general news. I think
Yep.
I'm going to start with the Mal Burns feed on Twitter and the highlights there. Um, uh, Beginning of the week, basically, there were two posts at voicesofvr.com, which is Ken Bai's podcast. Um, 654. That's an awful lot of podcasts, for about 2 years. There's several of these a week. Number 654 was about in indigenous. Oh God, indigenous futurism and Aboriginal territories in cyberspace. Yeah, okay. It's an interview with somebody called Jason Edward Lewis. I must admit, when I first saw this, I thought it was referring to, I guess, use the word Aboriginal Australia, but in fact, it seems to be more centered on Canada um, culture. Um, but anyway, the ways cyberspace interacts with preserving these cultures and things. And the next one, 655, is with a company called Orpheus Teledildon. No, sorry, I better get. Sorry, I'm going to start again. There, it's not Teledildonics. It's Orpheus Technodelics. That's what they're called, and they're publishing consciousness hacking VR experiences. Yes, this is even worse. I think the idea is to use VR to recreate the psychedelic experience, or something similar, but all very prim and proper, of course, as opposed to not prim and proper. Let me move on. Let me move on. Next page, please. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, now I have. I need to check. I cannot see James on this call anymore.
What's that?
Oh yes. Oh yes, he is there. Sorry, your light had gone out. I thought we dropped. You dropped again. Okay. Sorry. I will carry on. Your light's come on. Right.
You're not saying I'm dim, am I?
Yeah, we know on the connection it shows there's a red circle around your icon, and it
Ah,
just went away. And I thought maybe your USB needed
okay.
reconnecting or something, but we're fine.
All
We're
good.
fine,
Yep.
obviously. Yeah. Okay. Um, where's this from? RotorVR.com, Ben Lang reporting. Toward truly glasses-sized augmented reality, a first look at DigiLens AR heads-up display reference headset. Yeah, that's a long-winded thing. Now, I think the emphasis here is on toward truly glasses sized they are. The photograph that goes with this article of Dingy Lens headgear is, well, they look like normal glasses, but they're bigger and a bit more triangular shapes, and they've got these weird little sort of sensor things along the top rim of where you're sort of, on the bridge of your nose kind of thing. Um, it's not a headset per se. It's transparent waveguide display technology, and um, reference headset aimed at a wide FOV AR with hand tracking dubbed AR HUD, heads up display presumably. Anyway, the OR augmented World Expo in the US has been happening last week, was it, or a bit the week before? And the company gave the first glimpse of this headset there, and Red VR has a review, and it also has an embed for a little bit of video about it as well. So do check that out, rotovr.com. Virtuality-news.net reports about a French startup who are exploring the use of VR in hospitals as an alternative to anesthetics for minor operations. A company called Healthy Mind. Um, the article is saying French startup tests VR in hospitals as an anesthetic replacement. And really, that's all it is. The idea is, and this is probably very true, if you can immerse somebody in virtual reality with sound and vision and sort of distract them from the real world, then, it may not, if they may not receive pain signals to the extent that they would if they were focused on what was going on. So, they may be able to do minor surgeries and things like that without actually giving you a painkilling anesthetic. They can just use virtuality techniques instead to relax you enough that you really don't feel it. Um, Either that or they just delight in torturing you. I'm not sure which, really. Right, let's move on from that one. Leap Motion. Leap Motion is a little sort of, it's about the size of a USB stick, and it has various motion sensors in it, and it will work with a webcam too. It allows you to use hand tracking. Um, instead of a touch screen, it uses your webcam if you've got one, but also its own sensors, and you can flap your hands around in front of you. And once you've calibrated, you can use it on screen. And if you have a desktop piece of software for Leap Motion, you can do it to things like flip virtual desktops around. If you've got a web browser open, you can use your hands to flap up and down instead of scrolling, or flip the pages of something like Flipbook. In my experience, it's not as intuitive as you might think. Usually when it works, but you know. It will depend on each piece of software, how well it works. And in virtual worlds, on screen-based ones like Open Simulator here, or indeed Second Life we mentioned earlier, um, it doesn't really seem to work that well. Although apparently there are some games that Leap Motion works very well with. But anyway, the news, and you can read about this at uploadvr, or one word.com. The emotion improves its hand tracking. Brackets again. Yes. If there's one thing you have to say about the emotion is they keep updating their drivers and the way they work, and there've been back end improvements on Leap Motion's abilities constantly over the years. Even though, as far as I know, there's never been really any major update to the device itself. The driver facility updates seem to be largely based on just working with the device. Of course, it's possible they've updated the device over the years since I bought one, and I just haven't realised it. Certainly, ones in the shop now certainly look the same. So, find out about that at uploadvr.com. Exploring digital identity through avatars. Well, this one's rather curious. This is an article at a site called thenextweb.com. The Next Web, but it's written as all one word.com. And Alice Bonacio, who does a lot of news feeds and stuff on virtual worlds, is the author. Um, it's looking at Second Life in many ways. Uh, uh, I'm just going to open this for the sake of it while we're talking to give you a better idea here. Um, it's a general sort of article, but quite in depth. Go, yeah, here we go. 6 days ago. Um, they're looking at Drax's documentary for one thing. Our digital selves, my avatar is me. The Bernard Drax, or Drax de Dupre as we know him, traveling from Los Angeles to rural South England to tell the stories of 13 ability diverse people ranging from 24 to 92 years of age, etc., etc. A lot of information in this. It's not just a straight review of Drax's film. It also includes, talking to Tom Burstolf and his colleague Donna Davis, who actually worked on the study. It's really a bit of augmentation to the documentary film itself, if you have seen it. Um, on the plus point, on the Metaworld news feed, you'll find an embed to edition of Inside the Avatar Studio that we filmed during the week. This was an interview with Brett Linden, a lot of discussion about education, Second Life, and things like that. But the conversation there sort of went to Dresden Depre's work a little bit. But more importantly, I've the next edition of Inside the Avatar Studio, which will be, I think it's something like the 10th of July. It's the second Wednesday of the month. Will feature Dresden Dupre plus both Tom Bosfeld and Donna Davis. So it'd be less of an interview and more of a panel discussion. but basically everybody involved with the making that documentary will be on it rather than just Drax himself. So getting a little plus in there for you. Anyway, this article is at the Next Web, a fairly respected site actually, and quite a long article to boot, but well worthy of a little read. Right, Oculus Go hits the sweet spot. Um, this actually, despite the fact she's running down the site, as we've heard recently, there've been more posts on Hypergrid Business in the last week or so than there have been in a couple of months. Maria Koroloff actually posted on 12th of June. Basically, she finally got her hands on the Oculus Go headset, which of course is untethered. You know, it's a standalone headset, and I think she's given up reviewing most of these headsets when they come along, but she clearly couldn't resist reviewing this because it's. I'm not a big fan of standalone headsets, she said, but. And then dot dot dot. No, this is the big but. She seems to like Oculus Go, and at the price point, it's not really surprising. So basically, Hypergo Business giving their, or Maria Karloff particularly giving her review of Oculus Go there. Um, Bloomberg.com, right? Making a killing in virtual real estate. This is a post. Hard to know exactly where to go to. It's at Bloomberg.com here. I think it may be behind a paywall too. Um, you know, but you get 4 or 5 articles a month or something. So if you don't go there regularly, you'll get it. Um, let's see. Last month, Ryan blah blah went to a bar in New York to see his 58,000 square foot of property. No, it's not the world's biggest bar. His holdings are all virtual, and basically, I think they're. I'm going to open this. So I think they're looking at the blockchain based virtual real estate here, where you've got new worlds coming up that are cookies. Yes, I agree. And co's. Sorry, Bloomberg is apparently requiring me to do all sorts of stuff for the dubious virtue of opening their page. Here we are, right. um, Here we are. 20 people meeting to chat and compare their little slices of something called Genesis City, a digital metropolis they're hoping will eventually become a major hub for virtuality commerce. Um, Kansan, who teaches tech support for a property management website, intends to turn one of its largest stretches into a virtual museum or art gallery. You know, there's a lot of great art there, but you don't always see it in a big city. Now, while this sounds like a lark, that is the article's expression, not mine, or perhaps another iteration of the faded online world Second Life. Oh dear, oh dear. It may be faded, but it's, you know, after, you know, it's like a 15-year-old pair of jeans. They do start to fade, don't they? Right, there's already real money behind the blockchain-based real estate. Cousins paid 15,000 US dollars for 62 plots of about 1,100 square feet apiece, and he recouped his investment 3 months later by reselling just 8 of them. And the game price is now around 30,000 US dollars. And a credit network called Ripio.com actually paid 150,000 for a single spot next to the main square so that they will be where visitors appear when they enter the city. The record sale is 200,000 US dollars. Um, who actually ended up spending that on a piece of land where he'd actually only previously spent $13,000. So where are we? Um, Okay, Genesis City is part of, yes, I knew it. I've got it right after all. It's part of a broader digital world called Decentraland, and it uses the Ethereum blockchain for managing sales of land and everything sort of else. Um, Clearly, a lot of people, probably with more money than sense, are getting very excited about all this. I certainly wouldn't cough up that kind of money for a bit of virtual land in on a virtual world that hasn't taken off yet, if you see what I mean. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So yeah, certainly. significant enough for Bloomberg to take an interest and write an article. Okay, enjoy easier virtual reality content sharing with um, VR. Um, I think VR is meant to be pronounced VR. It's spelled VEER. Capital V is the way it's written, and then EER. My inclination when seeing that would be to pronounce it Veer. But obviously, if you go V and then the R, you've got VR. If you see what I mean. Anyway, this the post about this is at virtualrealitytimes.com and developed by Velocious Technologies Incorporated, VR or VR. VR. It's a video content network that gives users an immersive virtual reality experience through headsets and smartphones. Um, it also includes an editor. You should go to virtualrealitytimes.com and read this article if you're interested. Um, it almost seems like a YouTube kind of thing for video style virtuality stuff. I presumably have lots of immersive panoramas and things like that. But it's not only a platform for publishing content, but it also includes an editor for actually editing video for VR video, should I say? Anyway, sort of interesting. Um, there are other sites that actually try to replicate being a YouTube for VR type video. So it's from what I can gather on that, it's probably not unique, but their editing facilities may well be. So uploadvr.com. Um, the biggest VR announcements at this year's show, they are talking, of course, about E3 2018, which was the entertainment expo kind of thing. And basically, Upload VR has done a roundup of all the stuff they saw in LA, mostly virtual reality games and things, and chosen the biggest highlights they can find. A couple of posts from today as well. VRScout.com has a post called Shortening the Distance Between Family and Friends with Oculus Go. This seems to be about using the Oculus Go headset, which is like the what is it, $200 is it or something? The untethered one. To keep in touch with family and friends. Why have a video Skype call when you can kind of put on an Oculus Go and have your loved one at the other end of the planet in your face, so to speak. I'm sure there's some advantages to that you can't get with, say, Skype video. Right, digitaltrends.com. Mount this head up display. I think they mean heads up display actually, but mount this head up display to your helmet to project any phone app. Now, um, this seems to be pitched at cyclists, biker cyclists. The idea that you take the helmet that you've already got on your head, to basically protect your skull from nasty petroleum vehicles that might knock you down, and this creates a kind of visor thing that hangs down from your helmet, and it's got a little built-in projector, so it projects like a transparent augmented reality overlay of information in front of your eyes as you're cycling. But it doesn't, apart from an overlay in front of your face, it doesn't impede on your ability to, I don't know, keep your hands on the handlebars and keep your eye on all the other stuff you have to do to avoid being becoming a human lawnmower victim. Anyway, nice idea in a way because you can pitch something like this at cyclists, but I imagine conceptually it could have a lot of greater uses. I mean, somebody going out hiking, for example, presumably, if you've got any kind of helmet or anything this could be attached to, maybe even a baseball cap or something, then it might actually have its function in anything where you want your hands free, but want an information overlay in front of your eyes. So I don't know if any of you wear spectacles, for example, but you can often buy these pairs of shades that actually clip onto your spectacles, and you literally hook them on, and then you fold them down over your regular glasses. So you're wearing shades, and then when you want to use your glasses normally without the shades, you just lift up the sort of thing to put it out of the way. So to have an augmented reality kind of projector system that will work like that could be useful in quite a lot of ways. So upload VR, sorry, not upload VR, VR. Right. Let me start again, folks. Right. We have a choice of three. I'm now going to give you the real website where that article appears. It's digitaltrends.com. That's digital trends, as in fashions, but all one word. So digitaltrends.com. And you can read about that there. And finally, upload VR.com. Do have an article with about a site called Within. Well, an app called Within, really. Within is kind of a hub for looking at virtual reality content, particularly on phones and presumably Daydream and stuff like that. It tends to be the more down to earth VR content, not the high end stuff that you need a super headset for. Um, but you can get this as an app on Android and I think iOS and stuff like that. But now they've the title is Within Leverages Web VR to offer device agnostic VR videos via the web. Basically, they're using WebVR to put an interface to the Within program on the web. So you can actually go via the standard web to Within site and use WebVR to enter the actual 3D worlds or 3D experiences that Within offers via the web. So you don't actually need a phone or a Daydream or a cardboard or anything else. You can actually enter them in well, you can probably enter them in 3D too if you have the headset, but I mean, basically, you can enter them without any headset at all, just via the web and yeah, wander around and stuff that you do in VR, I guess. Right, okay, that concludes the links in the main feed there. I'm now going to switch over here to Metaworld's feed, the one I've named after this show. A couple of things. Come up here 5 days ago. Why our grid tries fails with Kickstarter to save grid. This is another post from Maria at Hypergrid Business, hypergridbusiness.com. YR, that's simply two letters, grid. It may be meant to be short for your grid or something. They have a welcome center. It's a recreation of a gambling district, blah, blah, blah. And it was Bitcoin friendly, but it's been a bit down recently. And Maria says it's looking like that might be a permanent situation. It was last online last month. It's gambling based, but they launched some kind of Kickstarter to try and save the grid, which does not appear to be very successful. And even their Twitter feed, as the last tweet was said, "A Happy New Year," and it was posted in December. So not apparently very active over there. Right, New World Notes, which is nwn.blogs.com. This is Hamlet Dawes. Well, once upon a time it was a Second Life blog, but it's much wider now. He has a post about Science Space touring Los Angeles and San Francisco to give multi-user Unity 3D, social VR, enterprise, and education demos. I know Rowan is heading over there from London here, as is Adam Frisby from Australia, and they're going to be sort of doing their mini world tour of the West Coast to promote the various uses of their science-based platform. Obviously, if you're in Los Angeles, San Francisco, that kind of area, you could be well entertained and learn a lot by looking them up and find out a bit more on the blog or the links they post. If you're elsewhere, of course, well, who knows? Somebody might film them. Right. Um, Also, another post from Hamlet's blog, nwnblogs.com. Online worlds with user generated content like VR chat and Second Life are threatened by an upcoming EU regulation. Um, I posted this because apparently, with all the fuss being made about European legislation of late, this is something else that you might want to uh, keep in touch with. Hamlet's post points to Cory Doctorow's Electronic Frontier Foundation post. Um, if, this will be a couple of years away, but the vote is on June the 20th, 21st, which is literally about 3 days away. And it's an update to the European Copyright Directive. And any internet platform that allows the publication of user generated content is about to be hit by a massive, potentially devastating regulation. Yes, that includes virtual worlds like VR chat, Sansar Second Life, and any others where users can publish content they create or download to the world, i.e., the company's servers. Under Article 13, companies that allow user generated content of any kind would have to design some kind of machine learning based censorship system that use catalogs of known copyrighted works to check their submissions for copyright violations. Corey explains Google spent 60 million US dollars developing um, something called Content ID filter system, and that, right, 60 million US dollars is only capable of analyzing audio tracks in video. Um, the filter challenge for online games and worlds is even greater. It means everything from choreography to bitmaps to 3D meshes to music and moving images would have to be filtered by games companies. No one has ever tried to build that kind of filter, but if the starting price, i.e., Google, is 60 million US dollars, expect the cost to be upwards of that. And it doesn't matter if VR chat and other games are based in the USA. The EU has treaties with most of the world that allow for civil judgments to be collected in some circumstances. It's likely that future trade deals with the EU, like the recently completed EU Canada trade deal, would require that trading partners allow EU companies to sue and collect judgments under EU copyright directive. This means even non EU companies will be forced to comply with the new rules. Um, so, even if a company could set up its headquarters outside the EU, blah, 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 their executives could still face civil and possibly criminal sanctions. Um, there's an even um, greater social problem. This is a boon for griefers, Corey has argued. Since the rule has no penalties for abuse, griefers could claim copyright over public domain works, works that others had created, etc., and block other players from using them. You could upload every military insignia, the logo of a rival clan, etc., and as any content creator in Second Life knows, the DMC rules are often used for just this kind of abuse. Um, and again, well, you're going to have to read more about this, or you can go to a website https:// save your internet, or one phrase, .eu. And there is actually a sort of petition there for you to make your thoughts felt to any member of the European Parliament before they actually take the vote on this thing. It wouldn't come into effect for a couple of years, but then again, the recent rules that everybody's been getting in a fuss about were similarly decided 2 years ago, and that's the time to squeal, not 2 years later when it's all just gone through due process. Um, I mean, this is daft because it does sound like anybody could claim copyright and they would always win, um, even if because anybody who copies that thing itself needs to have in place the kind of search engine that even Google haven't fully refined yet to check for copyright violations. Um, in my personal opinion, um, I was a Remainer in the Brexit thing, but the more things like this crop up, the more I think, God, thank goodness Britain here is out of Europe. I still approve of being in Europe, quite frankly, but this is bureaucratic Brussels nonsense. I mean, they're living in cloud cuckoo land. They clearly don't even understand how the internet works. Um, it's sort of an elaborate referencing of the internet based on the way you used to draft, copyright legislation back in the days before there was no internet, and transfer of electronic information. It's almost as if they're updating a law for books or something. Go figure. Anyway, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Obviously, that article refers to its in context of virtual worlds and games, but I mean, of course, it goes way, way beyond that. It basically relates to everything and anything anywhere on the internet, and you know, uh, it's no use hunting down people who violate your copyright anymore because the first instance seems to have automatic copyright, and you before you put anything up, you're going to have a robust engine that will double check whether it is already copyrighted. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to move on because I'm going to get really annoyed trying to explain what idiocy is going on there.
Yeah, it's a complicated
Okay,
one.
now talking of more idiocy from the EU, we have GDPR, of course, which most people know about now. Another post, a type of good business. This one, the post actually is from David Karuki this time, or Kariuki, how you pronounce it. GDPR compliance stigmatizes hypergrid travelers. Well, haven't I been saying that for a couple of weeks? I'm a user. I don't want, the whole idea of the hypergrid is to be like the internet. And the whole idea of the internet is it goes beyond borders. I don't want it, I like the idea of clicking and going somewhere, whether it's a web page or whether it's a destination on the hypergrid. And I do not want that click to turn into an interview at customs or immigration. you know that the web might as well not exist if everything's a click away and it's fast, furious, and it's sharing. That's what it's all about. And it is not surprising that in the past couple of weeks, people who have their own grids on their local computers or a member of an open simulator world on the hypergrid suddenly find themselves unable to travel anywhere because as soon as they click on the teleport button, they get some notice from the grid they're trying to get to, telling them that they've got to go and register with that grid to give access to data and all this sort of stuff. And of course, all the grids that are demanding you do this, which is basically every stop on the hypergrid, have actually got different implementations of it. I'm not talking about different readings of the law, although that might be the case too. But one site's got a pop-up button that does it for you. Another site you've got to fill in a form. Another site does it a different way. There is no uniformity to this, and some people actually say that so long as the home grid that you belong to has already um, got permission to on your data, then it's actually a home grid that houses the information, and nobody's going to be bothered about your inventory traveling with you. I mean, unless you're going to somewhere that's actually stealing it, in which case it's a good job they are checking. I don't know. Anyway, as Hypergrade Business have pointed out, it's just causing an awful lot of problem for people who just generally want to jump onto the hypergrid and go to a location to visit, to go to a concert, or go to do a bit of shopping or whatever. Um, we talk about it here, and if you're on Google Plus or various places that where the grid operators are discussing all this is fine, and they're telling you all about it and how they've got to do it. But if you don't follow that stuff and you're just a user and you log in and you go to your bookmark bar and think, right, I'm going to go to Fred's Jazz Club, you know, click on the link and you can't get there because whatever grid Jazz Club is on requires you to fill out forms to even get onto their grid. Um, before you get there. It's like taking your passport to every embassy in London and getting them to stamp a visa so that you can automatically visit all those countries. Surely the passport itself should, in many ways, be enough. Anyway, I, re- I would get really upset with this stuff, so never mind. Right, POI, yeah, this is medium.com, a post from Leighton Marjoram, who's very active in OpenSIM and on the hypergrid. POI stands for Person of Interest, and basically the blog is featuring a few people who are kind of hypergrid people of interest. And this one is about Bill Blight, who is CEO of OpenSIM LiveGrid. And basically, it's a sort of interview discussion, quite short, really, Q&A with Bill on Leighton's blog there. And 5:30 pick of the day. Right. Ryan Schultz posting about a place called The Spot, a new meeting hub in High Fidelity. And yep, that was about it for that department. And finally, I will click on this button, which should take me to Google Plus if it's in the mood. And indeed it has. But nothing new on. That's odd. I thought I posted to Google Plus, but it's okay. Um, right. Actually, that looks to be about it. But while I'm perusing my own highlights here, I also have another category in the magazine here for virtuality, which has been very quiet, but seems to have livened up recently. I think, well, there's another E3 VR roundup that you can find at gameinformer.com. Um, 5 realistic VR experiences that tricked our senses from flying dinosaurs to walking on the moon. This is a post of businessinsider.com about the increasing realism of virtuality. Medium.com, an author called Pfeiffer Garbessi, has an article, What Deep Mind Means for Virtuality. And yeah, that's a repeat from stuff I had already. Um, oh, yes, this is the one I wanted. Um, I'm actually looking at, oddly enough, the Australian site of gizmodo.com. So it's gizmodo.com.au. Netflix's Kiss Me First is a YA. I don't quite know what YA means. Thriller set in virtuality. Now,
Is it
if you're
young
lucky
adult,
enough,
maybe?
could be, yes, it had that kind of flavour
Yep.
to it, to be honest. Although it was very, it puzzled me at the end. Clearly, they better be pretty brainy YAs actually to figure it out. Um, I was quite impressed by this, but I did find the story as it developed, and especially the end, couldn't really quite figure out how it all connected together, which is really surprising because as I said, if you're lucky enough to live in England, it's actually been a 6-part series on Channel 4. And if you have, the catch-up service, what is it, All 4, I think it's called, you can go there and do as I did last night, and that is literally watch all 6 50-minute episodes in one fell swoop, or 5 of them in my case, because I've seen the first. Um, Good way to watch it because I suspect if I'd had to tune in every week over 6 weeks, especially with my memory, I'd have sort of forgotten what had gone before and been even more confused than I was watching it as in a binge session, I believe is the name they give to these things. Um, anyway, the series is now coming to Netflix, and I think it's a pretty decent um, thing to watch. It's my link here is taking a while to load, so I'll have to just talk my experience from yesterday first of all. Um, I think in the story it happens in about the year 2005 or something, where a world is created that sounds rather like a sort of Second Lifey thing, though although much more advanced. And the story of in the drama takes place in the current day. So obviously, this virtual world is now a very, very established thing, and people. It must be in some kind of parallel universe because people are logging in with kit that more resembles what you've got in Ready Player One and what anything we've got in 2017 or 18, as in fact it is now. Um, the virtual world and the avatars are very well done. It's kind of CGI style stuff. So the avatars really, without being uncanny valley, they come. You know immediately which avatar belongs to which organic person in the other side of the drama, so to speak. The avatars look like the actual organic people who take part. Um, it's young people, as you probably gathered. Um, Something very odd is going on in this virtual world, and a select few people seem to be getting entangled in it. It's like a murder mystery kind of thing, or actual murders, or something very odd is going on. And slowly, various people in the real world who know each other as avatars actually meet, and the drama follows a couple of friendships or encounters in that regard. And it's all about unraveling the anomaly. And at various points, the corporation that runs the so-called game come into it and are on, in the media trying to disavow any knowledge of this. Then the original creator of the game, who's sort of apparently off the grid and no longer interested in their own creation, um, yeah, has been released from prison for something she did that sounds like it may have been a murder suspect or something. And whether she's really off the grid or up to shenanigans, we don't know. So it's really this kind of intriguing real world, drama. But so many of the actual encounters and investigations take place in the actual virtuality version, but the two are very kind of intertwined. And I think actually one of the reasons I found myself hanging a bit at the end in limbo was I wasn't quite sure what endings had happened virtually and what endings had happened in the real world, or rather, if I did understand them, I wasn't sure which was which. It left it all a bit too up in the air. Although, if it's been pre-sold to Netflix, so it's a good enough drama to actually watch, and I've got a funny feeling they may be catering for the Netflix American type audiences where it deliberately has a bit of an odd ending so they can make a sequel if they need to. It's just based on a book, by the way, and the author of the book was actively involved in the screenplay for some of the episodes um, as well. So you you may have read a novel called Kiss Me Gently is the name of the novel, and yep, the author's name of the novel is Lottie Mogak. Yeah, that sounds like an avatar name in itself, actually. That's Lottie, Lottie, and then surname Mogach. So you might find that book around. And I will probably pick up that book if I can, because it might give me a clearer idea of the plot, actually, or the ending, I should say. So it's called Kiss Me First, and it's partially set in a fully functional virtual world. So there you go. I want you to get that one in because I watched it last night, and it's I would say the scenario depicted there. This isn't about virtuality; it's about something else in a world where virtuality is pretty commonplace amongst young people, or not actually just young people. Um, it's as valid probably as something like Ready Player One, which again is an interpretation of a novel. Um, but many people they read Ready Player One and say, so well, at the end actually, it's about going back to reality and getting out of the virtual world. So it's hardly a way of promoting virtual worlds. This may be very sort of similar, but I kind of like the way it proposes immersive social virtual worlds um, as just another part of everyday life. That people interface with when they need to or want to. So yeah, check it out. Check it out. He says, yeah.
Sounds good.
Flipping over, yeah, flipping over here a bit more. Uh, no, nothing really new there. Facebook are apparently doing another step towards being socially VR'd. Article at Social Media Today, and article at Calendar Lib Unc Edu on how to create virtual environments for Unity. Now I think we got it all there. So I'm pretty much done. Phew. James, any thoughts on all my ramblings?
Well,
I know it made up for last week. We had a few things.
yeah, we did. Yeah,
Sorry.
there was a
Yeah.
good number of items in the news today, which was great. I was just reflecting on these programs are very interesting. There's another one on the NBC in the United States called Reverie, which is another. Some
Oh.
investigator has to go into virtual worlds to get people out because they're stuck. Well, how do you I haven't watched it, but
I bet that sounds a nice little learner for somebody operating a virtual world, just getting stuck in
just
it.
get them stuck in it. This question has come up on some forums before, and it always relates to media. Are virtual worlds going to replace um, other activities, or are they going to replace 2D experiences, or and
But
these things
it's
don't of their own accord they're not going to do that. But my
uh,
brother was talking to me about driving a car that has a backup camera, and it seems like something that is probably a little extraneous or additional to the experience. But once you've been driving a car with a backup camera, and then you drive a car that doesn't have a backup camera, you suddenly feel handicapped. You feel you don't have a tool that you'd been using on a regular basis. And I pretty much suspect that's what
uh,
VR is going to be. It's going to be something that once it becomes so familiar and someplace that you do go for a particular activity, you'll probably more notice the absence of it than you'll notice it taking over anything.
I think you're absolutely right there. I mean, it's in a sense it's a new medium. I mean, when it comes to the hardware side of it, these new headsets and stuff are taking off in industry and stuff
Yeah,
rather than
yeah.
the consumer. Um, Gamers as consumers obviously like all the hardware stuff too, but for most purposes, something on screen is just as adequate. But yeah, it's new. Why should it replace anything?
Yeah, yeah.
If it's not the same, I mean, um, you could say, well, it's more immersive. It could do everything like did. Television never replaced radio.
Right.
It did in many ways take over, but radio's still around because it was a more limited and arguably more enjoyable medium because of its limitations.
Hmm. Movies are still
VR,
around, right?
yeah, VR is not going to take over from movies or TV, but it might be that you can watch TV and watch movies within VR. But I know Hollywood are playing with the idea of VR movies and having special cinemas where you'll do this and the other. But it's not going to take over. You're not going to be able to engage people for 90 minutes to 2 hours like you do in a movie when with total VR. If you can create anything like that, it'd be more like a game than a film.
And it'll be a technology
If,
way beyond anything
yeah,
we have now. You can't wear a headset for 2 hours. Or
yeah,
maybe somebody does,
exactly.
but I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in, we mentioned Second Life's birthday earlier on. I mean,
Yeah.
but back in the older days of Second Life, I remember there were endless arguments, well, not arguments, but between people saying, are you an immersionist or are you an augmentalist? Right?
Hmm.
Now, I don't know why this was such a popular topic for a long while. It is sort of relevant, but
Yeah.
it only touched the surface of a much greater issue. Um, the idea, I guess, was people in there who said we were all mentalists were people who went in there to work or do a function or attend a meeting and then hop out again. And if you're an immersionist, you were like a fashionista who went shopping and role played and stuff. But of course, nothing is that clear cut. Um, some experiences involve full time role play, but are actually educational
Hmm.
experiences. Um, the boundaries are less there. At the end of the day, virtual reality is an augmented facility. It's a facility for augmenting ourselves and do things we can't do any other way. Um, it's not a replacement for anything, and arguably, even the old immersionists, in other words, people who just can't keep out of, they're using it for escapism. Um, even they, in some ways, are still augmenting their life to, maybe to, they're in world for 95% of the time, but for 5% of the time, they're still eating and breathing in the real, sleeping in the real world. And so the virtual is an augmentation.
And
Um,
it's funny
so,
that we talk about immersion as being how well we're fooling the mind, but I think immersion oftentimes is more a state of mind because I can
mm,
become very immersed in open sim or second life in first person camera walking across an environment. And
well,
you know.
if I don't know whether you go on a bike or whether you get in a car or get on a train or a
Hmm.
bus or whatever, or go from the inner city out to the open countryside where there's nobody around and take a walk, you are immersing yourself in something that is very different from where your normal 24/7
Sure,
lifestyle,
sure.
if you
Your
like.
abode,
Although
right?
maybe I'd go out for a walk in the country every day, even better. But you're simply jumping into that experience to relax or maybe to get exercise or whatever. And really, when you approach virtuality on a 2D screen or in some kind of kit, it is it's for a reason.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
um, Quite frankly, there's probably no reason for going into virtuality on your own to watch a film because you can actually watch it on the big screen without having virtuality in the middle of the equation, if you
And
see
you
what I
won't
mean.
end up with strap marks on the back of your head.
Yeah. On the other hand, if you want to watch a film with friends from around the world, then maybe you want to meet in a nice lounge and watch it together. And you do watch it in virtuality, so you're kind of in sync. In reality, of course, in here and in Second Life, you'll be watching a YouTube stream or something, which plays in sync with the actual viewer, not the actual environment. So everybody will be out of sync anyway.
Yep.
But it's like having meetings or talks or concerts and things in the virtual world. You meet with other people to talk and discuss things while you're doing it. So that's something that you can't easily do in the real world when you're sitting on your own in your apartment somewhere. And virtuality enables it. Um, but it is like anything, really. I mean, there is no, what is the use of something that's there just being there for the sake of it? There's no use whatsoever. There has to be an augmented or purpose to it, and that purpose can't be to replicate something that's done already and possibly even better in another form. It's got to be something different.
Yep.
So, yeah, you started me off again there.
Yep.
But yes, I do very much agree with that.
So I've been
Well,
neglecting the chat. There's been a little bit of feedback on the YouTube channel during
oh
the
yeah,
live
yeah.
stream,
I
and
keep forgetting that too. Yeah,
just
what have we
just
got?
just a little bit of pushback on the idea of traveling on the hypergrid. This is related to the story about getting consent. It was related to the assets, right? That's the
Yeah,
follow on to the GDPR, and
right.
a little bit of pushback from a viewer saying that it's not that onerous of an activity to try and protect people's assets. So interesting perspective there.
No, yeah. I mean,
It could be worse, I imagine.
it's the problem is the EU. and the way they barge into these things without thinking them through.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, this is designed to go after the big guys who are making money and exploiting our data. You know, and aren't always very clear about doing it. They shouldn't be doing this stuff. I mean, the legislation, I don't think anybody really thinks is there for things like virtual world assets and stuff like that. But the point being here is, like the new legislation there, the copyright stuff they're voting on in,
Mm-hmm.
a few days.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand what the online society is all about, and they are doing things that it doesn't matter whether I approve of the legality of it or not. It's the fact that the way these are being implemented and the kind of people that are working on all this legislation do not have a clue what they're doing, and they're actually going to end up breaking the internet. If there'll be so many laws dictating what you can do and can't do online that, in fact, all the freedoms and stuff that are offered by everything from the World Wide Web through to virtual worlds will slowly become eroded because you won't be able to take a virtual footstep without your avatar, without checking that you're not actually stepping on a prim that is a copyright of somebody. That sounds extreme, and it is. But unfortunately, it's a logical endpoint, if you follow through the way they're actually doing a lot of this stuff. And, sure, they can use some legislation to go after the big guys, getting data offers and making money out of us without us knowing it. But there'll be other big guys who pop up who specialize in the opposite direction of being like lawyers. Oh, why we got 100 more lawyers in our street now because they're
Mm-hmm.
busy trying to track down violators and stuff. It swings and roundabouts. And as I said the other week and today, I think, and everything else, I view things. I may be, bringing this news to you and everything else and talking about it, and I love getting into discussions about these things. But at the end of the day, I'm a user. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to stand up from this chair and teleport across to the other end of my huge island here and enjoy myself on the beach or something like that. And then if I get a little message coming up in one of the feeds, probably on the web rather than in World, saying there's somebody is performing over at a club on blah blah grid, whatever, and I've got a link. I want to be able to just press on that link and be there, right? I don't want to have to go through signing up with that grid, taking 5 minutes to go through a form and then waiting maybe for that to be approved, or it may not be a form. It would depend on which grid I'm dealing with. And there are thousands. I mean, you can't list them all because the big ones we all know, but there are thousands, hundreds, if not thousands, of grids on the hypergrid. You know, Imagine it takes you 10 minutes, to register with each grid you're ever going to want to go to. This is actually going to be an endless thing. It's like, every time you want to jump to a new grid because something's on there, you're going to have to go through this process again and again and again. And even if you only have to do it one time for each grid you want to visit, there are just too many grids out there. The whole idea of the hypergrid is there can be thousands of interconnected grids all over the world. And it should be just as easy to hop from one to the other, just as we do on the internet itself or on the World Wide Web, we follow links.
So to be clear, what you're having a problem with is the regulation as being unreasonable. I mean, the situation for grid owners is actually pretty frightening, because wasn't that the point of whose article was it, that a troll, I mean, someone who wants to harm a grid could shut the grid down if the grid is not taking these steps to be GDPR compliant.
Um, well, arguably, there may. Uh, it depends on the purpose, I think. I mean, I can't. I actually have all the legislation downloaded in PDF form,
Oh,
but I'm
gracious.
not gonna. I can't read through it become an expert on it. I can only look
Hmm.
things up if need be. But I don't think the idea is to go after things like little grids on the hypergrid, or even bigger grids on the hypergrid, commercial ones. Um, but the issue to me is, pardon my language, but if I have to fill in that form, I tend to say, what the fuck are they doing wanting my information in the first place? All I want to do is visit them and go to a concert or go to a meeting or something. Um, we I noticed one of the grids that requires this now, for example, is Craft Grid. Now, come September, we'll be having the Hypergrid Expo once again on Craft Grid. And does everybody who wants to register to come to that have to either open a Craft Grid account or try and hypergrid in advance so that they can go to Craft Grid and officially get, sign the form that allows them in? No, I want to put a link on the web so that they can immediately jump in with their OpenSync client and be at the expo. I don't want everybody who might attend that expo to have to go through a whole load of formalities, getting a visa, as it were, to go into Craft Grid. It defeats the whole idea of the hypergrid. Um, and I personally don't know if it really is necessary, because you have to be harvesting somebody's data and using it for something, to really require their permission to take that data off them. And if passing of data is a requirement for functionality, I think um, you have to accept that. If the passing of that data is the point of passing that data is to harvest it and keep it and possibly exploit it, then I think it's very right that you should know that this is happening. But to me, when I visit a grid on the hypergrid, and I'm talking about intent here, right, rather than small print, you know, um, I'm assuming, for example, the craft grid, if I visit the expo, will not be trying to harvest my data for nefarious purposes or to make money out of me. The only money they will make out of me is possibly if I buy something in a shop on their grid while I'm visiting the expo. It's not, and when I leave, all my assets and stuff, go with me. Um, you know, maybe if I open an account with Globits, which is like a wallet, then I give authority for certain tracking information to go to Globits, and they provide the interim that allows me to spend the money on various grids. But I don't see anything in a casual, if I don't know how to put this. If I go over the border, if I'm in Bristol and I go over the bridge over the border into Wales to go to a concert, and when the concert's over, I drive back over the bridge and I'm back in Bristol in the UK again. You know, I've had a nice visit to a concert and I've been in Wales, but it's not as though by going to Wales suddenly, um, I don't need a passport to go to Wales, obviously. But yeah, it's not like I've left anything behind. I've just popped in to visit and I've come out again. Maybe I didn't even take a lozenge out my pocket and put the wrapper in the Welsh dustbin. It's you're getting into areas of total absurdity here, I think.
There's a lot to be sorted. I think that's
Yeah.
probably a big part of it. Just going to a virtual world, could it be like the old days of software when you open the shrink wrap, you're making an agreement to, you know,
Well, that's sadly in a way that that's the root of so many problems. I mean,
but you didn't have to
nobody
click
read, and
anything to open the software package
yeah, and nobody wants to read a thousand
and read the
pages of
words,
small
right?
print. If yeah, I mean, a lot of this one good thing about this legislation is that it requires a lot of companies to get rid of that 5,000 page small print terms of service, because they have to present it to the customer, which is what we are, I guess, in plain English or plain gobbledygook, but whatever language you're talking, it has to be easily understandable, short and to the point. and it's got to be something people can read within the space of a couple of minutes and understand and sign. And that's written into the legislation, which is useful because it's going to get, there are too many companies that want to give you a 5,000 page document where the small print on page 4,998 is the crucial bit. you know,
Sure.
they can't do that anymore. So that's a good thing. Um, you know, but swings and roundabouts is good size to everything. But that's I'd be grateful to see the end of terms of services we never get to read. It's there was years ago in Britain here. There was I think it was, I guess it was the campaign for plain English.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
all government documents online now subscribe to this. The days when bureaucrats wrote things to like disguise what they were talking about are gone. It's now law that things like that have to be short, concise, to the point, truthful, and understandable by plain blokes and women.
Yep.
It has to be in everyday language.
And in theory,
Um,
right?
yeah, and so sites do, and not talking about sites, leaflets that come through your door, things like that.
Sure.
They're much more accessible these days in terms of being upfront about what they're there for and what they're doing. They're still a pain in the arse, but I mean they are upfront about it. And we should have something like that. I mean, it's very easy on the, um, if I'm going to agree to terms of service, I want to be able to see, preferably on a single screen, what those terms of service are, and then agree or disagree. So, you know, um,
Well,
not, we talk about things like Microsoft with all their updates and breaking things down. I mean, sometimes I think, given that computers are really the ultimate productivity tool we have in the modern world, how come the manufacturers of the operating systems are doing everything they can to interfere with our productivity by buggering us up most of the time? There was a time when, the interface, the operating system was there to, along with your software, to be productive. And there comes a point where things get so bloated that any productivity they're actually offering is slowly becoming eroded by the the way it's implemented. People are no longer really thinking about their users; they're just thinking about systems and how their own kind of idea of how you should be interacting with their products. And Oh, don't, yeah, I'm going to go on a
yeah.
ramble, and this
Yeah.
is this
I
is the
and I
news.
just I wanted to offer some feedback that it's great when we have
Yeah,
viewer feedback, and I hope
absolutely.
I somewhat adequately represented the person's opinions.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely great to hear from all of you out
Yeah.
there, actually,
Yep.
especially when we're live and can keep an eye on these things.
Yep.
Back when we were doing in more review more regularly, we were always hoping that we'd get a lot more feedback coming in from that, and well, hopefully we're changing things around a bit. So um, yeah, having the live feedback is almost a plus point of going live as opposed to the replay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, having said that, I rather suspect we've been a full hour on this week's show too.
An hour and
So
13 minutes. Yeah.
have we?
Mm-hmm.
When I open my mouth, it's other than to read the headlines, it's lethal. It's lethal. We had a 20-minute headline show and a 1 hour me rabbiting show.
Right.
My apologies, folks. My
I think
apologies.
it's the in-world review muscle wants to be exercised.
It is, yes.
Yep.
Without, since we're only doing one program a week now, they're sort of slowly merging, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered everything for this week. So we will be back same time, same place next week with 2 hour highlights of the news. Sorry, if there is any, we'll see what transpires. So have a good week, everybody. It's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from
From the other me, from him.
yeah, yes, that's it. We're not the two Ronnies, we're the two
Yep.
me's. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye for now.
Oh,